Have you ever shared something important and later wished you had stayed silent? Maybe it was a dream, a personal goal, a new relationship, a business idea, or simply a private struggle you thought someone would understand. But instead of support, you received doubt. Instead of encouragement, you felt misunderstood. And somehow, after talking too much, the energy disappeared. Welcome back. Tonight, I want to talk about something many people learn too late. Not everything in your life needs to be shared. In a world where people post every feeling, every success, every pain, silence has become rare. But sometimes, silence protects your peace more than explanation ever will. This video is not about becoming cold or secretive. It is about learning the difference between connection and overexposure. Because the truth is, some parts of your life grow better in private. And if you have ever felt emotionally exhausted after explaining yourself too much, this message may stay with you for a long time. Part 1. The pressure to share everything. We live in a time where silence makes people uncomfortable. If you are happy, people expect pictures. If you are sad, people expect explanations. If you start a new goal, everyone wants updates immediately. The modern world quietly teaches us that our lives must always be visible. Visible online. Visible to friends. Visible to strangers. And after a while, many people begin sharing not because they truly want to, but because they feel pressured to. Sometimes people share their plans before they even begin. They announce new projects, new habits, new dreams. And for a moment, the attention feels good. But then something strange happens. The excitement disappears before the real work even starts. Because talking about a goal can create the illusion of progress. Your brain receives emotional satisfaction from being noticed. You feel productive without actually moving forward. That is why many dreams die in conversation. Not because the dream was impossible, but because it was exposed too early. There are moments in life that need quiet, not secrecy, not fear, just protection. A seed grows under the ground before anyone sees it, and human growth works the same way. Sometimes your next chapter needs privacy while it is still fragile. Many people do not understand this. They tell everyone everything, every argument, every emotion, every disappointment, every future plan. And slowly, they lose something important, their emotional center. Because when too many people have access to your inner world, your mind becomes noisy. You start living through reactions instead of truth. You begin asking, "What will people think?" instead of, "What do I truly want?" And that is dangerous. Because a peaceful life cannot exist if every part of your identity depends on outside opinions. Some things become stronger when protected quietly. Not every success needs an announcement. Not every pain needs an audience. Not every thought deserves immediate expression. Maturity is learning that privacy is not weakness. Sometimes it is wisdom. And perhaps one of the strongest things a person can say is nothing at all. Part 2. Not everyone deserves access to you. One of the hardest lessons in adulthood is realizing that kindness and access are not the same thing. You can love people, care about them, respect them, and still choose not to tell them everything. Because not everyone who listens truly understands you. Some people listen only to compare. Some listen to judge. Some listen out of curiosity, not care. And some people quietly collect your vulnerable moments without you realizing it. This does not mean the world is evil. It simply means wisdom matters. Many people grow up believing honesty means complete openness. So they explain every decision, every emotion, every mistake. But over time, life teaches a different truth. Too much access can damage your peace. There are people who will support you only when your life stays small. The moment you begin changing, improving, growing, their energy changes too. Not always because they hate you. Sometimes your growth reminds them of what they avoid in themselves. And this is why sharing everything can become emotionally dangerous. Imagine telling someone about a dream that deeply matters to you. You're excited, hopeful, motivated, but they respond with doubt. Are you sure? That sounds unrealistic. What if you fail? Maybe they laugh lightly. Maybe they pretend to care. Maybe they say something small that stays in your mind for weeks. And suddenly, your confidence becomes weaker. Words affect people more deeply than most realize, especially when those words enter your mind during the early stages of growth. That is why emotionally intelligent people learn to protect unfinished goals. Not because they are arrogant, but because they understand energy is fragile in the beginning. A small plant can be destroyed by harsh weather before its roots become strong. Human confidence works the same way. There is also another quiet danger in oversharing. People begin feeling entitled to your life. The more information you constantly provide, the more some people believe they deserve explanations for everything. Why you changed, why you disappeared, why your priorities shifted, why you said no. And when you stop explaining, they become uncomfortable. But adulthood requires boundaries. You are allowed to keep certain things private. Your healing, your relationships, your finances, your spiritual life, your next move. Privacy is not dishonesty. It is emotional self-respect. The truth is, deeply peaceful people often speak less about themselves, not because they have nothing happening, but because they no longer need validation for every step. They understand something powerful. Attention is temporary, but inner peace is priceless. And when you stop giving everyone access to your personal world, something changes inside you. Your thoughts become clearer. Your confidence becomes quieter but stronger. Your decisions become more independent. You stop performing your life and finally begin living it. Part 3. Oversharing creates emotional exhaustion. Have you ever noticed how tired you feel after explaining yourself too much? Not physically tired, emotionally tired. Because constantly sharing your inner world with other people can slowly drain your energy. Many people do not realize this at first. They think talking about everything will make them feel lighter. And sometimes it does for a moment. But when sharing becomes excessive, something unhealthy begins to happen. You start reliving your emotions again and again. Every painful story gets repeated. Every disappointment gets reopened. Every frustration gets analyzed in endless conversations. And instead of healing, you remain emotionally stuck inside the same cycle. Some people spend years talking about their pain without truly moving forward. Because expression alone is not healing. Real healing also requires silence, reflection, distance, and time away from constant outside opinions. There is another problem with oversharing. Too many voices enter your mind. You ask 5 people for advice. Each person gives a different opinion. One tells you to stay. Another tells you to leave. One says, be patient. Another says, move on immediately. And slowly, your own inner voice becomes weaker. You begin depending on external guidance for every emotional decision. This is why many people feel confused all the time. Not because they lack intelligence, but because they have lost connection with themselves. Silence helps you hear your own thoughts again. When you stop explaining everything to everyone, your mind becomes calmer. You begin noticing what you actually feel instead of reacting to everybody else's opinions. And that clarity is powerful. Some emotions should be processed privately before being shared publicly. Not every difficult moment needs immediate exposure. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is sit quietly with your emotions and understand them first. Because feelings change. Anger changes. Sadness changes. Even relationships change. But words spoken publicly are difficult to take back. Many people damage relationships because they share temporary emotions permanently. They speak while angry, post while emotional, complain while hurt. And later, when emotions settle down, regret appears. Wise people learn emotional timing. They understand that not every feeling deserves immediate expression. Sometimes silence prevents destruction. And this applies to success, too. Some people constantly announce every new improvement in their lives. New habits, new routines, new goals. But talking about progress all the time can create pressure. Now people are watching, expecting updates, waiting for results. And instead of growing naturally, you begin performing progress for an audience. That pressure becomes exhausting. True growth is often quiet, repetitive, invisible. Most meaningful transformations happen privately long before the world notices anything. The strongest people are not always the loudest. Often, they are simply the most emotionally disciplined. They know when to speak, when to stay quiet, when to protect their peace, and when to walk away from unnecessary conversations. Because energy is limited. And if you spend your life explaining yourself to everyone, you may eventually become too exhausted to understand yourself anymore. Part 4. Social media made privacy feel unnatural. There was a time when people lived entire lives without broadcasting every moment. They experienced joy privately. They healed quietly. They built dreams slowly. Now many people feel pressure to turn life into constant content. A meal becomes a photo. A relationship becomes an announcement. A personal struggle becomes a public discussion. And after years of this culture, privacy begins to feel strange. Some people even feel invisible if nobody reacts to their life online. That feeling is more dangerous than it appears. Because when attention becomes emotional fuel, silence starts feeling empty. And once that happens, peace becomes difficult to maintain. Social media is not entirely bad. It connects people. It inspires people. It can educate and motivate. But it also creates unhealthy habits. One of the biggest is emotional exhibition. Many people no longer process emotions internally. They process emotions publicly. The moment something happens, they post it. Before understanding their feelings, before calming down, before thinking clearly. And this creates emotional instability, Because now your private experiences are mixed with public reactions, likes, comments, opinions, judgments. Your emotions become dependent on responses from strangers. That is exhausting for the human mind. There is also another hidden problem. Constant exposure attracts unnecessary energy. The more people know about your life, the more opinions they develop about it. Some people will quietly envy you. Some will compare themselves to you. Some will criticize choices they do not understand. And even if you pretend not to care, negative energy still affects the mind over time. This is why many people feel anxious after sharing too much online. Not because they are weak, but because human beings were never designed to receive thousands of opinions about their personal lives. Privacy protects emotional stability. You do not need the internet to validate every beautiful moment. Some memories become more meaningful when they belong only to you. A peaceful dinner, a quiet achievement, a personal breakthrough, a moment with someone you love. Not everything needs proof. Some of the happiest people in the world are difficult to understand online. Their lives look simple, quiet, maybe even boring. But offline, they are emotionally free. They are not trapped inside performance. They are not constantly updating strangers about every emotion. They are simply living. And that freedom is becoming rare. There is strength in enjoying life without needing applause. There is strength in protecting sacred moments from public consumption. And perhaps one of the healthiest questions you can ask yourself today is this: am I sharing this because it is meaningful, or because I am afraid of being unseen? That question changes everything. Because once you stop needing constant visibility, your relationship with yourself becomes healthier. You begin doing things because they matter to you, not because they look impressive to other people. And slowly, silence stops feeling lonely. It starts feeling powerful. Part 5. The most powerful moves often happen quietly. Look carefully at people who are truly focused in life. Most of them move differently. They do not announce every plan. They do not explain every strategy. They do not constantly seek attention while building something important. They work quietly. And when results finally appear, people call it sudden success. But it was never sudden. The growth happened in silence. This is something many people misunderstand about discipline. Real discipline is usually invisible. Nobody sees the early mornings. Nobody sees the lonely evenings. Nobody sees the private sacrifices. The world only notices the final outcome. And perhaps that is why silence is so important during personal growth. Because constant exposure can interrupt the process. When too many people know your goals, several things begin happening at once. Some people place expectations on you. Some offer unnecessary advice. Some quietly doubt you. And some unconsciously distract you from the original mission. Little by little, your focus becomes divided. Instead of building your future, you begin managing reactions. That is why wise people protect their momentum. They understand that energy flows where attention goes. And attention is expensive. Every unnecessary conversation drains a little focus. Every attempt to explain yourself steals emotional energy. Every effort to gain approval weakens independence. But silence protects concentration. When nobody knows every detail of your life, you move with more clarity. You make decisions faster. You recover from mistakes privately. You grow without pressure from outside expectations. And most importantly, you stop living for applause. There is something deeply powerful about building a better life quietly. Quiet healing, quiet discipline, quiet learning, quiet growth. Not because you want to hide forever, but because some transformations become stronger without constant observation. Think about nature for a moment. The strongest trees grow slowly. Mountains are formed over time. Even the human body heals in silence. Life itself understands the power of quiet development. Yet many people today feel addicted to visibility. If nobody sees the process, they think it has no value. If nobody praises the effort, they lose motivation. But mature people eventually learn this truth. The most important progress often happens when nobody is watching. That is where character is built. Not during applause, not during recognition, but during ordinary moments of consistency. And this applies to emotional life too. Some people announce every conflict publicly, every breakup, every betrayal, every painful experience. But constant public exposure often slows emotional recovery. Healing becomes performance instead of reflection. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is disappear for a while. Not to punish people, not to seek attention, but to reconnect with yourself privately, to think clearly again, to breathe again, to remember who you are without noise. Because the world becomes loud very quickly. Everyone has opinions. Everyone has advice. Everyone wants access. But peace requires boundaries. And one of the strongest boundaries you can create is selective silence. Not cold silence. Not arrogant silence. Intentional silence. The kind that protects your mental health. The kind that protects your future. The kind that allows your next chapter to develop without interference. You do not owe the world constant updates. Sometimes your greatest move is simply continuing your journey quietly until your results speak for themselves. Part 6. A peaceful life is built in private. At some point in life, many people become tired of noise, tired of explaining, tired of proving, tired of defending every choice to people who were never truly listening. And slowly, they begin choosing peace instead of attention. That shift changes everything, because peace grows where unnecessary exposure ends. When you stop sharing every detail of your life, something surprising happens. Your relationships become more genuine. You begin noticing who truly cares without needing constant updates. You stop confusing curiosity with connection. You stop mistaking attention for love. And your emotional world becomes safer, not smaller. Safer. There is a difference. Some people think privacy means isolation. But healthy privacy is not loneliness. It is emotional balance. It means understanding that your inner life deserves protection. Your dreams deserve time to mature. Your healing deserves quiet space. Not every battle should happen in public. In fact, some of the deepest personal transformations happen completely unseen. A person silently overcoming anxiety. A father quietly rebuilding his life after failure. A woman learning to trust herself again after heartbreak. Someone waking up every day trying to become mentally stronger. The world may never fully see these battles, but they matter deeply. And perhaps that is the beauty of private growth. You are no longer changing for applause. You are changing because your soul needs peace. That kind of growth lasts longer because it is rooted in truth, not performance. There is another beautiful thing about silence. It teaches emotional independence. When you stop seeking constant reassurance from others, you begin building trust in yourself. Your decisions become calmer. Your emotions become steadier. Your confidence becomes quieter but more real. You no longer need everyone to understand your journey. And honestly, most people never will. Everyone sees life through their own pain, fears, experiences, and limitations. So if you spend your entire life trying to make everybody understand you, exhaustion becomes unavoidable. Freedom begins when you accept that not every part of your life requires explanation. Sometimes, "I know what I'm doing" is enough. Sometimes silence is enough. Sometimes walking away quietly is enough. And this kind of emotional maturity creates a rare type of peace. A peace that does not depend on validation. A peace that does not disappear when attention disappears. A peace that survives even during difficult seasons of life. Because your identity is no longer controlled by outside reactions. It is grounded internally. And in today's world, that is powerful. The truth is, not everything meaningful in life needs to be displayed. Some of the most beautiful moments are invisible to the public. Private prayers, quiet discipline, late-night reflection, small acts of kindness, silent forgiveness, personal healing. These moments shape human beings more than public attention ever will. So, if you are entering a new season of life, you do not need to announce everything. Protect your peace. Protect your energy. Protect the parts of yourself that are still growing. And remember, privacy is not about hiding your life. It is about allowing your life to breathe without constant interference. So before you share everything with the world, pause for a moment and ask yourself, does this truly need an audience? Because not every chapter of your life needs public attention. Some chapters need silence. Some need healing. Some need time. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is grow quietly while the world knows nothing about it. You do not need to explain every decision. You do not need to prove your worth constantly. And you do not need permission to protect your peace. The people who truly care about you will still care even when you become more private. In the end, a meaningful life is not built through endless visibility. It is built through clarity, discipline, emotional balance, and inner peace. So protect your energy carefully. Choose your words wisely. And remember, a calm life often grows in quiet places. If this video spoke to something deep inside you, take a moment to reflect on your own life. And if you believe more people need this message in today's noisy world, consider subscribing to the channel and joining us again for the next conversation. Until next time, stay thoughtful, stay peaceful, and keep growing quietly.